So what Family Place actually does, the workshop is a program. And as a program, you can run this program once a year, twice a year, but it sits here in this room. And all of the collaborations, all of the parent-child stuff, all of the toys, all of the early learning materials sit here in this room. And if it never makes it into your entire library, then that's it. It's just sitting there, and if you didn't get to go to that workshop because it wasn't convenient for you, you didn't know about it, your kid was the wrong age, missed it by 2 months or whatever, you're done. You're not getting that in here. So what this really looks at, it's providing a developmental framework and comprehensive model for family-centered service. And so it took the parent-child workshop and really expanded that. And it creates an institutional environment. This is your entire library. Your circulation, your maintenance and custodians, your adult services, your outreach, your literacy, the entire library within a library that supports families and children beginning at birth. So that's really the difference. You have to run the parent-child workshop at least once a year if you're a Family Place library. But you can just run the parent-child workshop and not do any of the other components that we're going to talk about, and that doesn't make you a Family Place library. You're just running a very good program. So what are Family Place libraries? Community hubs for healthy child and family development, parent and community involvement, and lifelong learning beginning at birth. Same thing that a lot of our programs are, many of our programs. So why is this so important? The reality here is we've heard all this for 2 days, but I just love this slide, so I'm going to show it anyway. This is this little guy at 1 year, 25% of his brain is wired. At birth. At 1 year, 75% is wired, and at 3, 90% is wired. And we've heard all about this the last couple days from people that are much more expert at this than I am and did a much better job explaining it. We also know how children learn. That relationships are at the core of learning. So helping that parent and child bond together is absolutely quintessential to any learning happening. Social, emotional, and intellectual learning are inextricably linked. When I was going to library school and I was doing education and doing all this stuff way back when in the 70s, you know what? You used to think this is the silo for this, and this is the silo for this, and this is the silo for that. And now we know we don't learn in silos. Everything is all together. So you can have the best program, but if that child is not well bonded, if that family isn't connected, if they're really isolated, they're not going to learn as well. And play equals learning. Play absolutely equals learning, and we have to get that word out. The way adults interact with children makes a difference. And that's the other thing that we have to let people know in a very informal, casual, supportive manner. So why would this happen in libraries? Well, we've gone through this already too. We're neutral, we're a welcoming environment, we're accessible. Most places, most communities have a library. You don't have to drive an hour and a half to get to it. Some places in really northern Arizona you do, where we have some Family Place libraries, but they are locations, so they're centrally located. They have hours of service. Many libraries are open at least one evening a week, one weekend day a week, at least part of the year. So they really are accessible. Pretty much we're a trusted institution. Now that's not true when you're dealing with immigrants that look at the library as a government agency and are very suspicious of it. So we have a lot of barriers to break down there. And we are information centers with trained staff. We already have a building, we already have some staff, and we are information centers. So we're just building upon all of the positive things that we already have going in the library. So you're not reinventing the wheel from scratch. And this is the most important one. It's the lifelong learning is a major mission of public libraries. That's right there. That's right in the PLA. I just lost track of it. You know, the PLA. No, not every child ready to read. The other one, the planning for results, and new planning for results. Lifelong learning. It's a major mission. Lifelong learning starts at birth. And we're all lifelong learners all the way through. So basically, Family Place libraries expand children's services. So you're increasing the services for babies, toddlers, parents, and caregivers, and the adults that work with them. So that could be public health nurses, that could be anybody, nursery school teachers, could also be probation officers. You have a probation officer that's sitting there trying to figure out, well, you know what, this little one's dad is going to jail or coming out of jail. How can we all work together? What kind of materials do you have? That has happened. So it really opens up this whole Pandora's box as to the kind of support you can be giving families. Developing programs and services that support brain development, early literacy, parent education, and family support. We do all those first ones. Family support is something that's new to the library field. Integrating developmentally appropriate practice, prevention, and early intervention strategies. That's another thing. What we can do in that 0 to 3 can have such an impact on that family, and learning that happens and the ability for that child to learn later on is really incredible. And when we get to our website, if you go into our highlights and some of the back issues of our highlights, there's a wonderful story from Apache Junction, which is in Arizona, about a little boy with Asperger's syndrome that was identified early and where he is now 3 years later. It is absolutely amazing. And we design welcoming places and spaces for families with young children. And we're going to go over these a little bit. This is all based on family-centered principles. And this comes out of the child and maternal health field from a number of years ago. It's also very, very similar to the touch points. So if you look at some of these things, respect the importance of the family unit. I don't care if that family is a 15-year-old teen mom that just came out of rehab. If she's there with that baby or toddler, she's the most important person in that child's life. Treating parents as partners. We are not the experts on that child. That parent is, that caregiver is. So we really have to partner with them if we are going to be able to provide the maximum information and support that that family needs. We're very good at supplying complete and unbiased information. I think that can range from, gee, we're toilet learning, and what kind of books do you have? And there's different kinds of methods and strategies to do this, and just hand them all and say whatever works for you is fine. And looking at, I have a child that is autistic. What's the best kind of educational program for them? Do you have something that compares all of them? Facilitating parent-to-parent support. We talked a lot about that over the last few days. I can tell you I learned so much about working with very young children and bonding and being patient and loving from Hispanic-speaking grandmothers in programs that I did than I ever did from anything else. It was just amazing to see them. Outreach to families that are at risk, they're non-traditional and diverse audiences. We're never happy with just who's walking into our building. You'll be serving the same people over and over and over again. The people that really need us, more so than the people that are walking into the building, not that they don't need us too, is everybody that's out there that's not walking in. Developing family-friendly policies. Well, what would it be like? I'm a caregiver and I want to register my child for a program, and I want to register the other 2 kids for the same program. They're all under 5 years old. But we say to them, and I worked at a library that did this, and we had to change the policies. Well, you know what? You can't register a whole bunch of people because it fills up the program too much. So what you do is you register your child, go to the end of the line, and then when you get up there, you could register the caregiver's child if you have their library cards with you. I mean, the other kids, if you have the library cards with you. Well, what happens if the program gets closed? What happens if she doesn't have the library card? Then we say to her, you have to be in this program because you have to stay with your 2-year-old, but what do you do with that other 2-year-old and the 3-year-old you're caring for? Because they didn't get registered. I mean, we really have to look at what our policies are, because we have a lot of very old, archaic policies that really put up barriers to people using us. Building coalitions with family-serving agencies, because this is not something we can do ourselves, that we have the capacity or the expertise to do all by ourselves. And again, these are the same things that we saw before for the Parent-Child Workshop, and I'm going to go through these. And the ones in blue is the difference between the Parent-Child Workshop and Family Place. Providing a safe place in the community to share activities with children when it is convenient for the family. They can come into that library at any time, and because of the space that you set up, they can use the space. It's not the workshop, it's not the extent of the workshop, but it's a space in the library that they can use. Developing staff capacity to provide family support. To become a Family Place library, there's a 4-day, very comprehensive training that is done, and you learn so much about all of these different elements that I'm talking about. We bring in other speakers about child development, parent education, real experts that you're able to do that with. You want to institute a new interactive relationship with the community. You're not just staying in your 4 walls anymore, and that starts by reaching out and finding your resource people and having them come into the library. That's the first step. And that may be all you do for the first year or so. But then after that, you're going to say, gee, what else can we do together? How else can we collaborate on things? I'm going to move over here a little bit. And becoming a vital community resource for healthy early childhood development, early literacy, and family support. We want all the other agencies in the community. We want the school districts. We want the churches. We want WIC programs. We want Head Starts to be referring people to the library. Do you know the library has this? Do you know this, this, and this is going on in the library? So that we are really seen for the potential that we really have and we can develop. The core components of Family Place: assessment of early childhood and family support resources. If you do any kind of program, we all do this, we don't realize we do it, but we all do this. What's already happening? What do we already have? What are we doing? What kind of services are we providing for this age group, for their parents, for their caregivers? And what else is going on in the community for them? We don't want to duplicate things. We want to work collaboratively to make it stronger and better. Okay, so looking at assessing what's already there, and it is an assets-based program. It's not a deficit program. And I don't care what library you come from, whether you only have 2 people on staff and you're in a little tiny room, 10 by 10, you have assets that you can build on. So it's always looking at the cup being half full, not half empty. Developing collections for babies, toddlers, and the adults who live and work with them. So you're bringing a parenting collection into the children's room, right near your early childhood space to make it convenient. You're going to get some toys. You're going to get manipulatives. You're going to get other things. Many of you have that already. Developing appropriate programming, including the Parent-Child Workshop. From what I've heard, many of you, all of you, are doing wonderfully developmentally appropriate programming. So you already have a lot of this in place. You're going to develop the environment and space, which we're going to go through in a little bit. Outreach to new audiences, coalition building, and professionally trained staff. Somebody, at least one staff member, has to come for this comprehensive 4-day training. And I can tell you that even people that are in library systems that are well on their way and very good Family Place library systems, when new people from those systems come in, they'll look at us at the end of 4 days and say, you know what, I really get it now. I didn't quite get it, listening to what everybody else, they came back, they were all excited, they implemented this, 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 and this, but now that I'm seeing it, now that I've lived it for 4 days, I really, really get it. Then you're also looking at your programs for adults and very young children. Just like with the Parent-Child Workshop, the focus is on the adult and the adult-child dyad. So you want to do all of these things which we talked about before. And the most important thing is we want to increase the comfort levels and the confidence so parents will actually engage in these activities and incorporate them into their regular routines. Because it doesn't matter what we do in a story time. If a child comes to a story time, I don't care how old they are, the younger, actually this is even more true, they come to a story time for 20 minutes, for a half an hour, and they don't get any of this the rest of the week, it's a drop in the ocean. The person that's going to impact them is that parent and caregiver, that primary caregiver, not us. We're going to impact that parent and the primary caregiver so they can then impact the child because they're with that child 24/7. And we've already heard about the Parent-Child Workshops. We don't need to do this. Okay. Specially designed space. This actually, this is from Topsom in Maine. And this is a smaller library. They designed this space, which is so welcoming and so wonderful. It tells the community that you really value young children and families. You walk in and you're like, wow, this is okay. It's okay if my 2-year-old runs in there and starts to be okay and starts to play and to do all these things. We're really welcome here. Very different than shh and big hard tables and hard chairs. And it provides a sense of welcoming and belonging. You belong here. This is your library. This is for you and your family. Provides a model of space design that incorporates best practice. This is a writing table. You know how many libraries will not put crayons out because they're afraid they're going to write in the books? We have never, ever, ever had anybody write in the books. The table gets a little messed up, and this is a big roll of paper. So this is just a big roll of paper, and they can just do whatever they want. This is designing little nooks and crannies for little ones to play in, because they like little cozy spaces. And you're actually separating different kinds of activities, quieter activities from noisier activities on the floor. And it's a special place that they can go to. It's a social environment where parents meet other parents, children meet other children, parents can observe everybody else, and it's a learning environment. This is physics. This is math. This is patterning. This is all kinds of things that are going on with these blocks right here. And it encourages adults and children to play together and to learn together. You can't see this right here, but this mom was talking. They had this great conversation about where the train was going. It's going to grandma's house, and grandma lives in another state. And just all this language that would not have happened if they weren't playing with that train table. Not typical language that you would be engaging with your child. And this woman, look at what she's doing to support what's happening. She's handing her, this little one piece of the puzzle at a time. And then helping her if she really has a hard time and saying, well, try to put it over there, and then sliding it in. So she's scaffolding the child's play and really supporting that play. Provides a safe place for children to explore their environment, manipulate objects, formulate ideas, and learn about their world. Sand and water table. These are these little girls. This is a very low porthole, we call it. It's about this high. So little ones can look out. And they're seeing the difference between inside out, that it's snowing, talking about the snow. All of this, there's lots of language happened right there at that window. And this is a quote that came from Joan Kuchner from Stony Brook University. We have worked with her. She's actually written a book with Sandy Feinberg on developing learning spaces in public libraries, and she really believes the public library as a community agency is uniquely suited to facilitate learning experiences of very young children. To realize this potential, libraries need to go beyond offering just our programs and collections, which we do very well, and create welcoming, developmentally appropriate learning environments that a person can come into anytime the library is open. And when you do that, libraries become community destinations for families. Just like a park, and it's kind of an indoor park. So you really look at that, and where are you going to go with a 1-year-old or a 2-year-old that you can get out of the house, meet other 1-year-olds and 2-year-olds at a time that's convenient for you, and you know there's going to be other people there. And if, I don't think you see it in this particular picture, the diversity of the people that use this space is unbelievable. The next thing is outreach, because we can't do any of this by ourselves. There's no way. But when you want to outreach, because you want to reach new and underserved audiences. So these are the kinds of audiences that you may want to reach, depending on how your community is made up. And you're not going to go after all of them all at the same time. You may target one at a time. It may be families with low literacy, it could be immigrant families, teen parents. You're going to pick one target group and say, okay, this is the target group I'm going to try to reach. And what you do is you bring your programs and services, which many of you already share that you do, to the agencies and places that families frequent and trust. This is immigrant populations that really would never step foot in the library because it's a government institution. They're like, oh my goodness, if I don't have a green card, they're going to report me and the INS is going to be after me, and this is, I'm really not comfortable doing this. So once you develop relationships with the agencies and the people in the agencies that these folks trust, then they're going to feel much better about being comfortable coming into the library and working with you. So you're going to involve your agencies to target families in the development and delivery of programs and services. What do these folks need? Whether it's a teen parent, what are their fears, what's happening, what can we do to work together to help meet some of their needs? And you want to utilize your key agencies and target families. Key target families. Every single community has them. I don't care what community it is. There are some key families in that community that people listen to. Whether it's an immigrant family, a teen family, it doesn't matter what community you're going into. There's people that all of a sudden people listen to them. They're kind of the unspoken leaders, unofficial leaders, and that's who you want to try to work with, because that's what was going to help you reach the rest of those families. So again, it's all relationship building. And these are just some potential community partners that you might want to look at. Calling them up, going to visit them. This is all kinds of things that we do in the workshop too. How do you reach out? What do you say? What do you do? What are the different levels of collaboration? How can you do this? And I believe you're all going to be getting copies of this. And what are the roles of the community partners? Well, first of all, we want to assist in reaching new audiences. Cooperative programs. Many of you are doing a lot of cooperative programs. But we now have a program with Family Service League, which is a major family serving organization in Suffolk County. And this is happening in other places too. And they put in a social worker in the library. And it started out 9 hours a week on a little grant that we co-wrote. And we have memorandums of agreement, who did what. I don't know anything about social work. I can't supervise a social worker, that's for sure. So they had somebody from their agency who really actually was a resource person for the parent-child workshops, who really understood all this, who was her supervisor. That person is now 3-4 years later up to 25 hours a week. The difference it has made in the lives of our families. We can do information and referral. It's none of our business if they follow through. We would never ask. We would just say, hi, how are things going? Is it okay? It would not be, well, gee, did you take your child through the early intervention screening? It's really none of our business. She actually can do that. And she works with them in a way that's very non-threatening and really supportive, can help make appointments, can help follow through and do these things. And one story, we had a gentleman that came in. His wife had recently passed away. He had a bunch of kids. And this little one was 3 years old. And he said, I cannot tell my 3-year-old. I don't know how to do this. And she said, that's okay. She said, I'm going to work with you, so you're going to be able to do this. And she sat with him, and he did it in the library. And it was wonderful, because he would have never, as a librarian, we would have said, these are information, here's information about bereavement, this is what your daughter's going through, this is what happens at different ages, this is a bereavement group that's happening over at the university, this is happening here, this is going on at the church. This man was not going to be able to take advantage of any of these things, because he was, first of all, in so much grief himself. Secondly, just trying to manage 4 kids and working. So there's no way he was fitting in going into a bereavement group. So he really needed that kind of support. So that's just one other example of how some of these things can happen. Providing cross-training for librarian and agency staff. You have tremendous knowledge of early literacy. You know what books are appropriate for what ages. You know how to share things. You know how to do all this. Some of the Head Start people that are brand new maybe don't have that same kind of expertise. You can share that with them. They can share other things with you. Public health nurses, early intervention people. I've learned so much from early intervention providers in terms of how I could actually just do a better class visit with special ed from 5th grade. Had nothing to do with young kids, but just working on other things. You can learn things interdisciplinary, and that's really makes what you're doing so much stronger and so much richer. Sharing resources. Everybody does not have to have that $150 book. You can have it, or the agency can have it, but you both don't have to buy it. Writing joint grants. It's wonderful. I remember the very first time somebody called me up and said, we're doing this grant, and we really want the library to do this, and we're going to write you in for $10,000. Well, whoopee, I didn't have to write the grant. I don't have to write the reports. I don't have to do anything but actually do the piece that we were assigned to do and work with them very collaboratively and make sure it's done the way that they want it. So writing joint grants. Nobody gets a grant by yourself anymore. You really have to show a lot of collaboration and a lot of people working together. And this is a wonderful way of doing that. Marketing your family place programs and your other library all of your library programs and services. And ultimately, what you want to do with all these other agencies and your partners is work together to build a stronger network of family support in your community. Instead of having one piece here and one piece here and one piece there, you're helping to weave it all together. So what does family support look like in a public library? This is what it could look like, not after a year, not after 2 years, maybe after 10 or 15 years. Learning areas for young children, a place where parents can meet other parents, programming for parents and children together, parent education programs, parent support groups, welcoming, knowledgeable, and supportive staff. You can have all this other great stuff going for you. If that person behind the circulation desk is mean, you can just have done the best parent-child workshop or the best Mother Goose or the best whatever. If that kid is crying because they're having a good time and they don't want to leave, instead of that person saying, oh, it's so hard to leave, isn't it? Would you like a bookmark? Even if they went, nah! Oh, that's okay. He's really having a hard time. But we understand. Instead of like, oh, get this kid out of here. Real, big, big difference. They don't even have to talk. I mean, I've done a lot of work with teen parents over the years, and the judgment that came out of these women was unbelievable, to the point where we actually switched to worked on the Thursday nights when we had teen parents, because it just wasn't going to work. Literacy classes, ESL, GED classes, career counseling, doesn't all have to be done through the library, but there's some places in your communities that are offering some, if not all of this. Information and referral, immunizations. It's a great place. Public health can come in, do immunizations right in the library. And for people that live close by the library that can't get to the health clinic that's 15 miles away, that's a wonderful service for them. Signing people up for Child Health Plus, I don't know what you have in California, but in New York there's Child Health Plus and Family Health Plus for families that don't have health insurance. And if you're under 21 years old and you're eligible, and many working families are very eligible for this and they really can't afford their own health insurance. So doing the sign up for it, Family Health Plus and Child Health Plus. Computer instructions for the entire family. Another program and outgrowth of this was something called Parents and Children Using Technology Together. We called it Pact. And what happened is the mother and the fathers that came to this learned how to use early childhood program. This is with 4 and 5-year-olds, not with the little ones, but the 4 and 5-year-olds. And they learned how to do it, and they had instruction while the kids were doing something else with the librarian. As the kids came back in, they worked with the kids on instructing the kids and working with the kids on these wonderful early literacy programs. That gave enough momentum for one of the mothers to actually say, you know what, I can do this. I'm going to sign up for a regular adult computer class. And she did. And guess what? After that regular computer class, she actually had the motivation and the self-confidence to apply for a part-time job, and she got it. So it really affects the whole family. And social worker services, which is what I alluded to before with our collaboration with Family Service League. And this happens throughout the United States in all these family place libraries. This is not just Middle Country. Middle Country's been doing this for 30 years. But there's other libraries. Norfolk has incredible things. Arizona libraries, all of them are doing wonderful things. LA County. So basically, Family Place provides a model of family-centered services whereby public libraries can and do play a crucial role in the development of healthy children and families. We started in 1997, and since then, over 225 sites in 25 states have joined the network.